Hello! I wanted to make a video about the rarest or most valuable cards in the Star Wars CCG. So this first part will be about the cards that are called ultra rare. So this set over here, Death Star 2, which is probably seen as the most popular set of all time, introduced a new kind of rarity called ultra rare. There were only two cards that had that rarity tier, Luke and Emperor Palpatine. They were, I think, 3 or 4 times as rare as other rares in the set in terms of how often they appeared on the sheet, so you could expect to get one in every 2.5 boxes or so. What makes these cards really unique, besides, in my opinion, how awesome they look, this was the first depiction on a card of Emperor Palpatine. This was, number 5 or whatever depiction of Luke. But what made them unique is this 6 Destiny number. So as I mentioned in the past video, the good characters, or the good cards, had high power and ability. You presumably want a low deploy cost, like mana cost, and a high forfeit cost. But usually those cards have a destiny number of 1. Like Luke from the first set premiere has a destiny number of 1, which means when you draw it from your deck, kind of like rolling a dice, it's not going to be a good draw for like your weapon or something else called Battle Destiny. But with a high number, you can have kind of any number of these cards in your deck with impunity, right? Because they're not going to clog up your deck with low destiny. So at the time, it was seen very overpowered. Today, it's probably still seen as overpowered in some sense. These cards are still playable, in my opinion, look amazing. Actually, though, these were not the first ultra rare cards ever. The first ultra rare cards came in the set Reflections, which came out right before Death Star 2. That was the first set to feature foils. And so you were guaranteed 1 foil in every pack, but the foils had 3 tiers of rarity: very rare, super rare, and ultra rare. So very and super were, very was the least, even though it's called very. The ultra rares were much rare, again, I think 3 or 4 times as rare as the super rares. And in this case, there were foil versions of the original cards of the main characters from Premiere. So there's one for Luke and one for Darth Vader. You can see this foil pattern they used, right, is the foil around the sort of the borders, the edges, and part of the picture as well. Interesting fact, though, going back to the Death Star 2 rares, is that actually if you calculate the odds of pulling one from any given booster pack, it's it's higher than pulling any given rare 1 card from Premiere. So if you remember, Premiere, the first set, had multiple tiers of rarity, also rare 1 and rare 2. Rare 1s were twice as rare, and they're just more rares in the set compared to Death Star 2, at least by percentage. So if you look at actually the odds of pulling a Luke Skywalker from pack of Premiere versus Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight Ultra Rare from pack of Death Star 2, according to my calculations, it could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is actually less likely. However, this card is a lot more expensive, in part because, obviously it's playability, but also because Death Star 2 is just more scarce, not printed as much, or at least harder to find. A couple other facts I'll share actually before we move on to other ultra rares is just value. I'll try to give a sense of sort of the current value and how it's evolved over time. So right now this card is worth, it varies, right, because eBay just fluctuates up and down so much, but probably around $220. Emperor Palpatine probably closer to like $190 or $200. But I remember just about a year ago, these cards were almost half as much. Like I got my first one of these for about $120, first one of these for about like $80, something like that. So the value of these has definitely gone up. And same thing with the ultra rares, ultra rare foils from Reflections. This card was a $20 card up until not very recently, but it's spiked in value up to probably $90 for a near mint copy. This Vader is also about $90 for a near mint copy. So I got this probably back in the day for, like a year ago, just a year ago for $20. This card was worth about probably around $40 or $50 at the time. All right, so next we have more ultra rare foils. These are from the Reflections 2 set, and this will look familiar. So basically they decided to create foil versions of the ultra rares from Death Star 2. So foil Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, foil Emperor Palpatine. These seem to be more in demand than the non-foil counterparts. This goes for about, again, varies, but probably $240. This is closer to like $230 on average. But there were actually 4 ultra rares in the set for Reflections 2. So just like Reflections 1, again, you're guaranteed a foil in every pack, but the ultra rares were obviously much harder to pull. So the other ones were Lord Vader, which is also rare from Death Star 2, but in the Death Star 2 set it was not ultra rare. In the foil version, it was an ultra rare in Reflections 2. And I like, again, this foil pattern because it goes throughout the most significant parts of the image. So another sort of persona, essentially a different printing of Darth Vader. And then the 4th ultra rare, interestingly enough, was Mara Jade. There's a card I showed in a previous video. The symbol means premium, so it was like a premium that came as kind of a fixed card in a repack set that you could get kind of like those Pokemon box sets. But the foil version was an ultra rare. So Going back to value, sorry, the Lord Vader again spiked in value. You know, back in the day, you got this for $40 or $50 just a year ago. Now it's closer to 90. This Mara Jade foil also, you know, I got mine for probably $30. Now it's worth about 70 or 80. The non-foil version is still worth about $20 or $25. So you can probably guess where this is headed with the next set of Ultra Rares coming in Reflections 3. This was the second to last set that Decipher ever printed, and we've already seen the first one of these, one of my favorite cards, the foil version of Darth Maul Young Apprentice. So if you recall, Darth Maul Young Apprentice is a card in the Coruscant set. This gold around the set symbol of Coruscant means it's an alternate image, so this was a rarer version of it that you could pull in Coruscant, and then the foil version of the alternate image is an ultra rare in Reflections 3. I think it's the second most valuable English card in the game, so this is, you know, I most recently sold an extra copy of this for $350. Now it might be somewhere between $350 and $400, and again, one of my favorite cards in the game. The other ultra rares in Reflections 3, in my opinion, are a lot less striking or cool. Each of these, you know, cards is probably worth about $130, $140 right now. And some of the choices seem random to me. So Qui-Gon Jinn makes sense, kind of like a counterpart to Darth Maul. This is the foil version of the alternate image that came in Tatooine. And then these are the ones that seem more random. C-3PO is called 3PO with his parts showing because it's when Anakin is still building him. So again, this is an alternate image in the Tatooine set. The foil version is ultra rare in Reflections 3, also worth about $140. And then this one is one of those destroyer droids that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn fight aboard the Trade Federation ship. So they just gave this droid a name. The other one's called P-60. This is a foil version that is an ultra rare. The non-foil version, you know, is worth something like $20. So these kind of strike me as odd choices for ultra rares, but, you know, just as valuable as the Qui-Gon, and then less valuable than the Darth Maul. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't show a couple of other things that I think could or should be considered ultra rares, even though they may not always be. So I mentioned the Endor set, that's the set symbol, was the first to introduce foils. It was the only set that wasn't Reflections that had foils, and the foils you actually were not guaranteed one in every pack. It could be in place of a rare. And these foils had 3 tiers of rarity. Very rare, super rare, ultra rare, might sound familiar. So these ultra rares, some people don't consider them the same type of rarity as the ultra rares that came in Reflection sets. But in my opinion, you know, they're actually harder to pull because not only is it much more rare than a super or even a very rare card, but you weren't even guaranteed a foil in each pack. So I'd have to look at the specific numbers, but I think these are even harder to pull. But, you know, again, Endor, less scarce than these other sets, these cards probably less playable. So the foil version of General Solo, that's an ultra rare, goes for about $40. You remember the foil pattern at Endor is a little bit different, right? Where it's kind of like rainbow-like if you look at it in the light. Speaking of light, I've gone professional, or semi-professional. I've got a light in the corner up there, which makes these look nice. Kind of goes throughout the text box and in the background of the picture rather than the image of the character itself. Then we've got another C-3PO, so foil version of 3PO. The foil version of Tempest 1, so that's one of the names they give to the AT-AT walkers on Endor. And then one of the AT-ST walkers, Tempest Scout 4. Interestingly enough, I think that the most recent version of the official card list that I saw that was put out by the Players Committee is a slight error. It calls this a super rare, even though it's actually an ultra rare. So these cards are a lot less valuable than the other ultra rares. Like I mentioned, the General Solo most valuable, $40, maybe now $50. C-3PO, or 3PO, sorry, probably $30 to $40. This is, you could still get for, I think, $7. This one may be closer to $15. And last one, which again, in this case is not an ultra rare, but might be considered as such, is this foil version of Darth Vader. So you'll notice it's a little bit different than the foil version that was an ultra rare in Reflections 1, right? Because it's in Japanese, first of all, and it has that premium symbol. So basically what happened is for Reflections 2, they gave box toppers. Each box you bought had a foil version of a card that wasn't otherwise in the set. If you bought a whole case, there was this case topper, and the case topper was a foiled Japanese Darth Vader. Very different from the actual Japanese version, obviously because it's foil and also because it has a premium set symbol. So this is actually probably more considered a premium card, but it is, you know, just as valuable as this one, almost as valuable. This is closer to $70 or $80. And, you know, apparently buying an entire case of Reflections 2 was the only way to get it. So I'll show one more time kind of all the ultra rares in chronological order of when they came out, which means that we should actually start with Endor. So these are the ultra rare foils in Endor. Then the ultra rare foils from the first Reflections set, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker. Then the only non-foil ultra rare cards in the game from Death Star 2, Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight, and Emperor Palpatine. Widely seen as kind of like the chase cards in the game, a lot of people's favorites as well. Then the ultra rare foils from Reflections 2. So we have Mara Jade from the Expanded Universe, Lord Vader, and these two again as foils from Death Star 2. Then the foil Japanese Vader, if you consider that an ultra rare. as a case topper to Reflections 2, and then the ultra rare foils from Reflections 3. Thank you for watching, and in the next part I will talk about a different type of valuable Star Wars CCG card, which are the alternate image cards.